Welcome to this week's video. So what we're going to be covering today is recognizing the signs of burnout and how to prevent it. The three topics we're going to cover today is first, we're going to define what is burnout, okay? So what does burnout mean as a definition and what does it mean to us as people who are trying to improve our health, our fitness, our athletic performance? And the next thing we're going to cover is the signs and symptoms. So we've defined what burnout is and then we'll look at highlighting in yourself what is a sign and symptom of burnout, and then from that we'll move into probably the most important bit, how to prevent burnout and how we can stop it affecting our life and our athletic performance or achieving our fitness goals or our health goals, and that's probably the bit where it'll be most beneficial, looking at how we're going to prevent burnout. Straight into what burnout is then, the definition. So burnout is a state of physical and emotional exhaustion. It can occur when you experience long-term stress in your life without enough time to adapt to the stress. So we've touched on stress in plenty of previous videos, whether it be physical training and the stress placed on the body and then we adapt to it, or whether it be one of the lectures that Holly covered when we were covering stress and chronic stress, how stress can be a good thing, but it can also, if we don't adapt in time, it can become a bad thing and become chronic stress. So we have a bit of an understanding in stress from previous videos, but some examples here of how stress can become a bad thing is, these are obviously, this list is endless, but the ones we're going to cover is training too much, working too much, stressful relationships, stressful lifestyle such as excessive drinking or not recovering, not having enough rest, or a combination of all the above. So a couple of common scenarios that I've worked with over the years is, especially in the military, people working too much, people not allowing time, like downtime, because they lived on camp and were away from the family during the week. They didn't really have, if they were in a stressful job, they didn't really allow themselves to finish work. They were just constantly working till late at night, and then they'd get up in the morning and do it all again. So that in that case, it would have been working too much, and this is where burnout can happen. If you're just constantly working and not allowing yourself to have downtime, we can go into a state of burnout. Same with training. If you're just constantly training every single day, some people even train 2 times a day, whether it be athletic performance or just general population who just are really wanting to achieve goals, they might be overtraining and not allowing the body to recover. This again can bring on a state of burnout. Obviously, these don't work in like solo. They have a combination. So, for example, you could be training too much and working too much. You could have a stressful relationship, but also have a really stressful lifestyle in terms of excessive drinking. So the combination of these things over a prolonged period of time can cause burnout. And then, as it says there, burnout isn't something which goes away on its own. Rather, it will worsen unless you address the underlying issue causing it. If you ignore the signs of burnout, it can cause further harm to your physical and mental health in the future. So this is where this video will be useful in the next slide, how you can highlight burnout in yourself, because as it states there, it's not an illness isn't the right word, as a state of burnout, it doesn't just go away. So you can't just power through this, which we're going to talk about soon, in terms of with discipline and motivation and a tough mindset. You can't push through it. You have to acknowledge the thing that's causing the burnout for it to go away. So my experience with this is, as an MMA fighter, when I was working on MMA fighters years ago, when I was fighting myself, some of my teammates just constantly training until literally the point of burnout where they felt weak, they felt unfit, and they weren't. They were very fit and they were very strong, but because of the state of burnout, the body just stopped performing, and they identified in themselves, okay, this is a bit of burnout, and they took a backward step. They acknowledged it, they addressed it, and then it allowed them to go forward. So it's important that we resolve the burnout if we do go into the state of it, all right? And as I mentioned there, burnout is recognised by the World Health Organization. So it's quite interesting that burnout isn't just a word that, like, you think, oh yeah, he's a bit burnt out. It's an actual, I don't know what the right word is. I'll have to look at that, but it's definitely not an illness, but it has been recognised by the World Health Organization. I think the best way of describing it is a state of being, like you're burnt out, and it's affecting your lifestyle. Moving on to the signs and symptoms then. Okay, so some of these, knowing myself, looking at these headings, I'm like, yep, that's me. I think the key point here is it's chronic and it's excessive. So for example, today the baby's had me up all night and I feel physically exhausted. But for example, tomorrow, if the baby had a great night's sleep and I got 7, 8 hours and I woke up and still felt physically exhausted every single day, that's what we're talking about. We're not talking about just odd days here, odd days there. It's chronic, it's continuous, okay? So the first one is feeling physically exhausted. So as it says there, feel the feeling of chronic fatigue and being lethargic. This can be a sign that you are maybe burnt out or heading towards being burnt out, okay? Next one, emotional exhaustion, feeling drained, depleted or overwhelmed. And again, this isn't just a one-time thing. So we all feel drained, we all feel depleted, and sometimes we all feel overwhelmed. It's a constant state, okay? So if you're constantly feeling drained, you're constantly feeling depleted and overwhelmed, again, this could be another sign and symptom of burnout, all right? So increased cynicism, so lack of interest in work, increased negativity, irritable and detached. Again, we've all been there, but it's a state of chronic negativity, if that's the right word, irritable and detached, all right? Moving down, reduced stress, reduced sense of accomplishment, so feeling devalued, under-supported and lack of satisfaction. And next one, physical symptoms. So this one is quite a common one. It's something I have experienced myself in the past in terms of illnesses. So when I was doing my masters, doing the house up with my partner, expecting a baby, leaving the army, all these things, I kept getting sick. And in hindsight, I was probably burnt out. I wasn't allowing my mind and my body to recover, so I kept getting sick all the time. Like literally every other week I was sick. And in hindsight, I think it was a case of being a bit burnt out. And once the masters dropped off, once the house was completed, all these things sort of dropped off, then I noticed that I stopped getting sick. So that was a case of me identifying a little bit of burning out in myself, all right? And then the final one, sleep disturbance. So if you're quite a good sleeper and then all of a sudden you're having difficulty sleeping, whether it be you're undersleeping or you're oversleeping, so if you always want to be in bed or you can never get a sleep, this can be another sign of a little bit of burnout. And again, I've seen this with athletes and clients I work with, whether it be when they're starting a new job, whether they've got some stress at home, whether they're struggling, financially in the gym, the commitment to the gym, or whatever it is, it can cause stress, and then usually it follows with, I'm not sleeping great either. So these are all things you can keep an eye on and acknowledge in yourself. And when you do see them, we'll move on to the slide now where we can look at ways to prevent them or get on top of them when you do acknowledge them in yourselves. So when we're looking at methods and tactics to prevent burnout or get on top of it if it's the start of burnout, this list could be as long as my arm, couldn't it? We could have walks on the beaches, we could have read a book, we could have eat more fruit and veg, we could have meditating. There's literally 100 million things you could do. So what I've tried to do here is pick 5 good ones that I know work for myself, and I've worked for athletes and clients I work with in the past. The most common ones, in my opinion, all right? And they're quite broad, all right? They're very broad, but they are the most effective ones in my experience. So the first one is complete rest days. And I know this isn't always achievable if you've got busy businesses, you've got kids, you've got commitments. I get it, but at the same time, if your health is in jeopardy, you need to try your best to make time for this, okay? So as it says there, a rest day is no work, no gym, no stress, complete rest. So probably like all of us, my rest days at the minute are working. When I'm resting and not in the gym, then I just do more work. So technically that isn't a rest day, is it? Or vice versa. If I have a day off work, then I do loads of jiu-jitsu training and go out with the baby for a massive walk. So again, it's not really rest. So if you feel like you're obviously going down the route of being burnt out, try your best to factor in a rest day where you can just be in a state of not doing anything that's going to stress your body at all. I know it's not always the case, but at the same time, we need to make sure we're looking after ourselves. So if we can factor in a complete rest day, that can really help prevent the burnout, all right? Exercise regularly. So if you're watching this video and you're training at Elevate or with me one-to-one coaching, you'll definitely be training a minimum of 2 to 3 times per week. So you should have that big tick in the box. If you are someone who's trying to work up to 2-3 times a week, this can be a massive help to your mental health, your burnout, and also like your resilience in day-to-day life. by conducting strength training. So that's a big one. Sleep, we've hammered this so many times on previous videos, but it's a massive one. Minimum 7 hours per sleep. The research on this is massively overwhelming in the sense of, if you sleep under 7 hours, it's crazy stats, like 200 times more likely to get injured, 300% more likely to get ill, get long-term illnesses. So these type of things, like these chronic long-term issues from undersleeping, are massive. So I get it if we struggle with sleeping, but at the same time, we can try and work on it. We can try our best to get to bed earlier. If we can't sleep, at least we're going to bed early and we're in bed and we're closing our eyes and we're lying there. It's better than staying up till 1 in the morning and getting up at 6, 7 in the morning with only 5, 6 hours. This is a really big one. So if you are struggling with that and you need more help with that, then just reach out to myself or one of the coaches and we can help you out with a bit of support with that. But that is one of the biggest life improvers, if that's the right word, increasing your sleep. All right. And the last two, I don't want to get too much into this, but at the same time, I think it's important and something I definitely am an advocate for with my athletes and clients. And if you train with me, you know I ask you a lot how you are feeling. So discussing how you're feeling. So talking to your coach, your partner, or your friends. And I don't mean in the sense of sitting down like a psychologist trying to like pick your brain. It's just discussing how you're feeling. So if you are feeling really tired, or you're feeling really overwhelmed, or you're feeling these feelings, then just chatting about it with one of the coaches, with your partner, with your friends, I think it can help. And your coach can definitely help with this, because they can help you in the gym. They can change your training slightly. They can give you some feedback. They can give you some advice. And it might not be any good. It might not be for you, but it will definitely help talking about it, okay? And then the final one, acknowledging how you feel. Understand when you need to battle through your thoughts and when you need to acknowledge them. So using resilience and discipline to get yourself to the gym, or to do this extra work that you need to do for work, all these things is great. That's really good. But at the same time, if it's getting to the point where you need to acknowledge them and feel them and discuss them and sort them out, then you need to do that. Don't just power through them, all right? You need to acknowledge when to differentiate between battling through your thoughts and acknowledging when you need to sort of have a bit of support or talk it out. So to summarise today's video, I think the key point here is to listen to your body and how you are feeling, okay? So acknowledge along the way how you are feeling. Don't just bury your head in the sand and just think, nah, I'm powering through. I think acknowledging the signs and symptoms is one of the biggest key points here, all right? And from that, you can make sure you're allowing your body and your mind time to rest. Rest is the key word here. We all want to achieve things in the gym. We all want to achieve things out of the gym in our work and day-to-day lives. But we need to allow our body and mind to rest to enable us to progress forward and be high performers in life, all right? And proactively look after your body and mind to prevent the burnout. That's where we come in. Your health, your fitness, your food, your calories, your rest, all these things are going to help your output in day-to-day life and help prevent burnout, okay? So the link's there if you need any more information on this, and if you have any more questions, please just let me know via the app or in the gym.